Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell. And in today's episode we have a very special story about a positive HOA that fights back against an awful neighbor. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, California, I wish I never joined the HOA board. Soft sit in our community has been a problem for a few years, now filing erroneous liens on HOA board members' homes and community property. California, gonna try and keep this as concise as possible. Highly restrictive HOA community, this is made plainly clear upon the pending purchase of the house. We require that the prospective buyer have a quick call with one of the 5 HOA board members to confirm that they know just how strict our HOA is, what the $550 per month HOA fee actually goes to, etc. This has been our SOP for almost 20 years. I know this subreddit has a lot of hate for HOAs, but we are fair, totally transparent with all operations and rarely have issues. Our high HOA fee covers a lot of what most HOAs have problems with, such as front yard maintenance, painting of all houses, minor exterior repairs and roofing. Other things like pool maintenance, security, common area upkeep, a basic cable package and high-speed internet are also included in the HOA fee. The net result of this HOA's work, this is a highly desirable neighborhood to live in. Homes sell in mere days once they hit the market, and as stated above, there is not typically much in the way of issues and violations in the neighborhood. People know well in advance what they are buying into. I hope that is clear at this point. Over the years we have continually had problems with a retired, somewhat well-off older gentleman. I think he is in his late 60s now. Mostly minor stuff like leaving his trash can out or putting it out too early, trash and junk in his backyard, parking overnight on the street, etc. His wife died at the beginning of the year and the issues we have had with him have increased exponentially over the course of this year to the point now where we have threatened to put a lien on his house if he does not correct the myriad of violations. A little more backstory, he stopped paying his HOA dues back in May, he cited financial hardship. We know it is BS because over this summer he purchased a $60,000 plus suburban. Since we are a gated community, we require all vehicles parked in the community to have valid and up-to-date registration. He put a fake license plate on the new SUV, it has no state, it says Society of the Sojourner, and he has FBI anti-copyright warnings on the dash of his car, so he is in violation there. You are allowed to have veggie gardens in your backyard, no HOA approval required. He put a comically large veggie garden on his side yard. We wrote him a letter that he needs to get rid of it or install a fence around the side yard that also encompasses his backyard. Needs approval for the fence, no biggie. Well, he has now gone off the deep end and apparently we are now threatening his property and livelihood because we are not going to allow his huge garden without it being fenced in. In the past few weeks he has now filed liens against all community property as well as liens against all members of the HOA board. We, the board, is supposed to meet with the community lawyer today, but we are concerned about how much this whole thing is going to cost. Secondarily, one of the board members is set to put his home on the market in the next couple of weeks and now has to deal with a fake lien. What questions do you think we ought to ask the lawyer? Should we let our mortgage companies or homeowners insurance companies know about this situation? And then a user in the comments wrote, filing a false lien for the purpose of harassment in California carries a civil penalty of up to $5,000 payable to the property owner. The court also has discretion to award court costs and attorney fees to the prevailing party in a lien dispute. Interestingly enough, this law was only passed in 2015, so crazy old man picked a poor time to be a soft sit. And I gotta say guys, I am not that familiar with soft sits in America, however I know quite a bit about the ones back in Germany, but still I find it bizarre to be honest that if someone who wants to be a soft sit decides to live in an HOA community. That is essentially the total opposite of a location where a soft sit would want to live. Anyway, I gotta say in this story the HOA does not really seem like the boogeyman that it usually is. Let me know in the comments what you think about this HOA. And the next one is an update to the soft sit vs HOA story. We had a chat with the lawyer of the community, hired by our property management company yesterday evening. He is filing some emergency stuff today and requesting to be in front of a judge within the next week, mostly a scheduling issue on his side. He will be doing his best to get the liens of the community property and our homes ASAP. Another member of his practice will be joining him in this, as they suggested to us that we just bring the damn hammer down on this guy and move quickly. As for the liens on our homes, he told us not to worry about it, they will be taken care of soon. So the soft sit guy, between late fees, actual amounts owed, daily fines and current lawyer fees, owes us around $11,500. If we end up having to go to court against this guy, we/him are looking at a rough total bull of around $25,000+ due to the lawyer fees, which of course soft sit will need to pay. As documented in our HOA CC&Rs, we have a threshold of $5,000 60 days past due where we will put a lien on a property. Our lawyer suggested that we send a demand letter to the guy telling him that he has 30 days to pay off the debt, and if he fails to do so, we will take harsh and extreme measures that may include forcing the sale of his house to satisfy the debt owed to the HOA. I will address some other items brought up in the thread. The garden on the side yard is roughly 25 feet wide and about 40 feet long. This would fit just fine in his backyard, but the side yard is south facing, so it gets better sunlight. He has a garden about this size in the backyard already. We did get engaged with a neighbor of his several weeks back and asked them to check up on soft sit. Try and talk some sense into him, ask him what it would take to get him square with the HOA, etc., but it went nowhere. Waste of everyone's time, basically ended with a F you, I do what I want on my property. So that's it for now, I can provide an update in the coming weeks and months. And now the third update to the HOA versus soft sit story. For a visual, imagine a really old, much meaner version, including the way he dressed, of Walter from The Big Lebowski. The story is a bit all over the place and a bit long, but I promise it is worth a read. So our HOA lawyer got all the liens removed from our properties, both personal and community owned. The judge warned him that he was on very thin ice and could possibly end up as a vexatious litigant if he keeps trying to pull this stunt. So between the lawyer fees, the back dues, etc., come April-ish of 2018, he was in the hole to us for just under $35K. We placed a lien against his property and decided to hold off on collecting on it as we wanted things to calm down and we have plenty of money in our operating budget. We are not hurting for that cash right now. He did eventually build a fence around his gigantic veggie garden. He fenced in everything that he was permitted to do, like to the inch. His side yards and backyard is all garden. This may be shocking to you, but he did not follow the architectural guidelines and assembled the wrong type of fencing, both in the pattern of the wood layout and the height. He has like 9-foot tall boards. Oh, he also has a few chickens now at this point in the timeline. We don't allow the raising of livestock, chickens or rabbits, etc. in our HOA. Whatever. We figured we would let it be, but just sent him a letter letting him know that he is in violation of the guidelines. He responded with a multi-page incoherent rambling that eventually included him praising crazy people and how he's going to bring order back to this nation and folks like us will be arrested. I fully acknowledge that this is getting ridiculous sounding. In reality, this is a man who could not handle his wife's death. Over the course of a few months, he turned his huge, very nice looking SUV into something you would see over at InfoWarrior Rides. Whatever, add that one to the bucket of crazy. Late summer, some kids were playing with water balloons and hoses in the street and a few balloons hit his car. Apparently he came out screaming his head off at the kids, scared the crap out of them and proceeded to scream at us at the fall HOA meeting that we needed to regulate the kids in the neighborhood. We had to shut down the meeting and walk away. He would not shut up. We hosted a meeting at a local library and the cop on duty escorted him out. He was told to just leave. Fast forward a few months into October and he now open carries a long rifle as he is doing yard work like it was strapped to him. Cops get called because yeah, it is California and we are not used to this, but also sort of scary. Obviously, he ends up getting arrested, he gets bailed out and a new car is in his driveway, a minivan. It is his adult daughter and her kids. The daughter, along with her kids, knock on the door of a neighbor across the street and ask to speak about her father. Eventually, she calls me as the neighbor gave her my number. I give her the rundown of what is happening to her dad ever since mom died. She cried hysterically over the phone and kept saying, "I know he was getting bad, but I had no idea of all his legal problems." I felt so sad for this woman. We are almost done trying to wrap this up. She comes to our next HOA meeting in December 2018 and explains to us that her father is back in jail, this time for finally getting pulled over because he did not have proper plates, remember he's a soft-sit, and had a concealed handgun. They are going to sell his house as she got some kind of POA on him and are trying to seek leniency from the judge to release him to an elder mental health care facility where he will live out his days. She went on to say that he experienced some crazy snap and rapid mental decline once mom died and wrapped himself up in fake news and that it just chipped away at his mental health. He alienated the family, and when she called me, that was the first time she had seen her dad since her mom's funeral. Again, no surprise here, he also turned into a hoarder, not trash though, we are talking like tens of thousands of dollars of ammo, knives, survival kits and long-term dry food storage. I had a look at it and she invited me into her father's home, floor to ceiling, with what I can only describe to be overly prepared for the zombie apocalypse. We do not permit garage sales, but in this particular instance of the board unanimously agreed to allow her to have a garage sale of everything. One of the neighbors even tore down the fence for free. At this point, according to the lawyer, she thinks that the judge will allow for him to be moved to a proper care facility. The house closed on Friday and we now have our money back. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, There Goes the Neighborhood. A fun story for you all. When I was young, high school age, I lived with my family in a middle upper class suburb. Everybody in the community got along and for the most part life there was quiet, peaceful and enjoyable. That is of course for one major exception of the house next to mine, which was rented by Mr. Public Nuisance. $PN. Be it drug or alcohol-fueled parties, drug busts and constant eviction notices, there was rarely more than a week that went by without some sort of police involvement. To put him into perspective, he would have failed to get a job being a dirtbag simply because he was overqualified. One fateful night, however, the neighborhood got even. It was about 11 PM on a spring night. Myself and family are attempting to sleep, however, the party bumping from the other side of the fence is making sleep or even clear thought all but impossible. Police had already been called, volumes had been turned down and then turned back up again as soon as the police car had pulled around the corner. I crawled out of bed and made my way out to the living room. The front door was open and my father was standing out front in conference with the neighborhood pajama committee. They dispersed and my father came back inside. I asked him what was happening. Just be quiet and follow me. I followed my father out of the house into the backyard where he opened up the valves for our hoses. They bulged under the pressure. He handed me one of the nozzles and whispered, "On my command." We both walked over to the fence and took aim. My father waited, checking his watch until finally his arm dropped. Streams of water appeared from all around and jettisoned into PN's yard. Sounds of drunken partying turned to screams of shock. Now would probably be a good time to note that the neighborhood water supply was winter runoff, which usually sat just above freezing temperatures. In the cool spring air, it was probably quite uncomfortable. Screams of shock were eventually overpowered by a yell of rage. PN had lost it and was screaming half-slurred expletives. We shut the water off and somebody yelled back, "Sorry, thought it was the dog." A few minutes later, the neighborhood pajama committee had recommuned and were giggling among each other. PN was standing in the nude in front of his house, continuing to yell at the top of his lungs. At that moment, a police car pulled around the corner. Long story short, PN was taken to jail on charges of providing alcohol to minors, indecent exposure, lewd acts with a girl under the age of 18, and a slew of other alcohol and drug charges. He pled guilty to many of the charges and evaded jail time. However, because he now had a record of sexual assault, he was forced to move away from our community and the many schools that were nearby. And the next revenge story is titled Killing Them with Kindness. I drove by a friend's house in my neighborhood and noticed a lot of her dead leaves were blowing onto the yard next door. Now, my friend is a nice woman, but she doesn't take care of her yard and it really looks bad, especially in the fall. Making it look worse is the fact that her neighbor really keeps up her yard and it looks spotless all the time. Well, I had a few minutes to spare, so I got out of my truck and started to blow the leaves into a pile so I could remove them. I'm a landscaper and well, it is what I do. No sooner than I get started when the neighbor comes out screaming at me.
"You'd better not get any leaves on my property. I pay good money to have my yard cleaned and I don't appreciate you blowing leaves on it."
Really rude, over the top and abusive, this neighbor. I tried to explain that I was a neighbor just trying to do a good deed, not only for my friend but for her as well, but she wasn't having any of it, talked right over me.
"I don't care who you are or why you are here, I'd better not find one leaf on my yard when you are done, or else."
Well, I finish up the yard and meekly get back in my truck and drive away, thinking no good deed goes unpunished. I mean, my friend never even thanked me because she probably didn't even notice. A little over a year later, the neighbor's yard starts to look really bad, and upon asking my friend, I learned that the husband has gotten cancer, the insurance has run out, and they are having a rough time financially. Obviously, the first thing you cut back on is paying for lawn maintenance, and it showed. I made the decision, much to the chagrin of my wife and bewilderment of my friend, that I would secretly clean up their front yard whenever I could because, well, it is the right thing to do regardless of how I had been treated. Well, she came out and caught me one day. Her car was in the shop and I thought no one was at home. I heard her voice behind me saying, "I want to meet the person that has been so sweet as to take care of my yard these past few months and say thank you from the bottom of my heart." When I turned around and she saw my face, I swear she turned first white as a ghost and then almost as quickly red as an apple. "No problem, neighbor," I said with a smile. "Just glad I could help you." I wished her a good day and went on my way. I found out later from my friend that she remembered me and how badly she treated me and was damn mortified when she found out that it was me who had been maintaining her yard. Her husband has since passed away and I continue to this day helping her out when I see the yard looking bad. Sure, I would like to think that I do it out of the goodness in my heart, but there is a part of me that takes some satisfaction knowing that I am slowly, as my mother used to say, killing her with kindness. Sometimes the best revenge is kindness in the face of rudeness, for it acts as a mirror reflecting an image to the recipient that they are often mortified to see. And ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.